There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
Welcome to episode 172 of the program Guyz podcast. I am Mark Paul, joined today by Patrick Hertzberger and Matt Gann. We are here to talk ball. As always, you can come find us on our YouTube page, Program Guyz Podcast. You can follow us on Spotify, on YouTube, on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on all of your podcast streaming platforms. Probably only YouTube for the video streaming. I'm not so sure that we have anything else available, but hey, YouTube is where it's at anyway. Where else do you even go for YouTube? What, Rumble? Get out of here with Rumble. We're not messing with Rumble. You can also follow us on all of our social media platforms at Program Guyz with a Z. That's going to be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of them. We're not incredibly active, but don't worry. Patrick will give you his thoughts of the day on the Twitter account every single time.
Bang.
Boys, big episode today.
Huge.
We've got the biggest exit and the biggest return from the portal that OU has ever seen so far. How are we feeling? Patrick, go ahead. Lead us.
Grateful for the content. Here was my initial react. Super happy with how it turned out, right? Super happy.
I'm asking how you are. I'm asking how
Currently,
you are, brother.
I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
I'm very busy at work. Very busy at work, but happy to talk with the guys today.
Pat's got a lot going on at work, guys. If you don't know, Patrick is important. Maybe the most important of us all. Matt Gann, how are you doing?
I'm feeling great. You know, when this was first announced, it was, I think, a big shock to the entire OU community because we're wondering
what we're talking about. We're talking about how you're doing, Matt.
I'm asking about you.
Well,
you spent a week in beautiful California with beautiful Patrick and beautiful Becca. What is up with you?
Yeah, that was great. My girlfriend was able to come out. We jam-packed our what we call a friendship bender in about 72 hours, doing all the activities in a very short amount of time before she left on Tuesday and let me be on my own the rest of the week. So beautiful weather, beautiful time. As Patrick would say, that's what it's all about, baby.
Went from a couple's trip to a couple's trip, and Becca just had to hang out. That's what it sounds like.
She sure did. But we enjoyed
a lot of great pictures.
Yep.
A lot of great pictures from that trip. Like I said, this is episode 172 of the Program Guyz podcast, and we are here first and foremost, very beginning, introduction. We're talking David Stone. It's really the only thing we can talk about from a football standpoint going into this week, coming out of this week. Obviously, everyone knows the details. If you're listening to this podcast, you know the details. David Stone enters the portal on Good Friday. He returns to Oklahoma on Easter Sunday. We've got some fun quotes from the guys. I'm not going to use all of them because there were some words that I am not going to share here on the podcast.
PG-13.
There definitely a PG-13 thing on Good Friday, but I guess I want to get y'all's feel for what it seemed like Friday before we go into the impact of David's return. This is the highest profile portal entry out of the Oklahoma roster that I think we've seen. You could call for Dylan Gabriel because he was a quarterback, but we all kind of knew what that situation was. Matt, walk us through your thoughts and emotions as you're hanging out Friday with Patrick, unavailable for an EPC because y'all are turning up Cali style.
Turning up.
What did you think when you saw the news?
Absolutely shocked. Just like I was mentioning earlier, I think everyone was kind of waiting for some type of shoe to drop, for some type of big name to enter the portal, because that's kind of what you expect each and every year, is for these guys to look at other opportunities if they haven't got playing time, or to take advantage of the current NIL landscape to potentially look for more money or to get that bag. And I think that's what David Stone was kind of doing. You know, his snap count was limited to under 90, didn't have as much production his freshman year, and probably wanted to find maybe either some more playing time or potentially more money. And I think that's what Jim Nagy and BB probably had a couple conversations of, because I think he's going to be such a cornerstone to what this defense is going to do and just the upside potential that David Stone has. So I'm really excited that he decided to come back even after the conversations and seeing what was out there. I think he's just going to be a huge piece of what OU's defense is going to be about. And that defensive line is no joke. So glad to hear that he's coming back. But I just think of also, I saw a tweet from I think the Mainline podcast, just the kind of really bad success OU has had with 5-star recruits over the past few years. And I think it just is a tale that David Stone could have been another one of those guys that just didn't work out. But I'm starting to feel like that's going to turn around with him. But OU just hasn't had a good rep, and I think the last 4 to 5 years with the 5 stars just not working out. So I'm hoping David Stone can turn that around.
Excellent elongated take on what it felt like on Friday specifically.
Yep.
Patrick, how did you feel Friday when the news came down? I mean, I've got something here that came from Patrick, but I'd like to see how far you're willing to go on this.
Let me recap my initial reactions.
Bang.
I felt it was more of a Nico situation, and I think most of the fan base felt that same way. Of David Stone asked for more money, didn't get the money, said, okay, I'm going to go get my bag elsewhere. I don't care about being developed here at Oklahoma or staying at Oklahoma. I care more about the bag. And given the drama we faced during recruitment with David Stone and a lot of impression farming, social media farming, wanting to gain followers by the drama. And he even tweeted 3 days earlier a picture of his like signing day thing. So it felt like another David Stone is out for the bag, drama in, drama current. Like, when there's drama during recruitment, there's often drama with the player inside the program. So that was my initial reaction. Come to find out, we were wrong. We'll talk about that later, but that was my initial reaction. David wants the bag. It's going to suck for Oklahoma because obviously he's a 5-star and he was going to make an impact this year and probably could be definitely a starter by the end of the year. Going to get a lot of reps this year.
What Patrick's referring to there is on Tuesday ahead of the Friday entry to the portal. David Stone posts a picture from his commitment day where you can clearly see him choosing between the Boomer Sooner hat in the center, a Miami hat to his right, a Michigan State hat to his left, and all initial rumors were that Miami was a school he would be looking at in the portal. Fast forward, 2 days later, he's sticking with Oklahoma. I think we all have theories about what went on. I'm sure that the insiders have more of a TikTok to it, but it sure seems like he quietly marketed himself to some of these other schools, including Miami, got numbers back from them that he liked a little bit better than what he was getting from Oklahoma, and decided the portal was the best option for him. I felt bad about it. I felt bad. I did not like it. 5-star defensive linemen do not grow on trees. Between both offensive and defensive lines, that's where you need your 5 stars more than any other position. Maybe quarterback, but we had a 5-star quarterback 2 years ago that we were real excited about, and now he's playing for Auburn. I think that you've got to take as many shots on the 5 stars along the trenches as you can. It's why PJ is still going to be getting opportunities. It's why PJ is still an Oklahoma Sooner after 2 years of minimal production. And look, we might not have lost that much for the 2025 Sooners with David's absence. The defensive line is strong. Dominic Williams is going to start. Jaden Jackson is going to start. Shout out Patrick. Grayson Halton is a pass rush expert. Guy comes in, can play every third down for you. He's great. What worried me was the next season. Dominic Williams is going to be gone. Grayson Halton might be gone. Suddenly you're looking at Jaden Jackson next to who? You're going to go back to the portal and find a guy? I didn't love all of that. Let's get to Sunday. Can
I say one thing before we get to Sunday?
Please do.
My initial reaction was something went wrong and we handled a situation incorrectly and we should have never treated David Stone in a certain way. that would make him lead and go to the portal. It should have been completely avoided. And I want to say that before we get into Tuesday, because I still feel that way, even though we got him back. This should have been completely avoided and handled outside of the portal.
I love the point, and I want to follow it up just by saying it comes down to one thing for me. Was your evaluation correct going into his freshman year, or was your evaluation correct coming out of his freshman year? If you think he's a 5-star going into the freshman year, how did under 90 snaps convince you he should take a pay cut on that level that's going to force him to look elsewhere? You put a lot more work into recruiting him beforehand. And I know he doesn't start for you, but you've brought in Dominic Williams. Jaden Jackson's a superstar. That guy's an All-American. Grayson Halton has 2 years of experience on him. What could he have done wrong for his freshman year? This isn't Devon Mitchell, who also might be a defensive tackle in the future. This is a guy who you believed in, who got you Jaden Jackson, who is the apple of Todd Bates' eye. And you cut his NIL to a point where he feels he needs to look elsewhere. Now, rumor has it that happened before the Jim Nagy hire even took place, that they cut his number sometime in December or January before Nagy even comes in. But I would say that's a bit of malpractice to Patrick's point, to even let it get to that point. Matt, any thoughts on that before we jump to Sunday?
I would think the only thing that I think came with it was, man, OU fans on social media have to chill out, man. They're bashing this kid left and right who's trying to make a decision what's best for him and his family. And right now, until there is some more regulation on NIL, these kids have the freedom and the power to make these decisions on their own. Now everything worked out, but I think David Stone tweeted, what's harder, Smitty or social media? Man, OU media, I think people know now over the last few years, we just need to cool it. This kid is 18, 19 years old. Stop bashing him. Stop assuming. Stop trying to figure out what's going on in his mind, or he's this and that. It is pretty unreal. And as a recruit, why would you want to come to a place where you're going to get bashed that much on the internet or get bashed potentially in real life, So it really just kind of disappoints me as a fan base in total, because it's just a few people that are really, painting a broader brush. And it's just not exactly true for how OU fan base feels. It's just those few people on the internet that drive me crazy.
It's a great point. We can't count on these guys to have the kind of loyalty to the program that we do. We spent the funnest years of our young adult lives there. These guys are there for different reasons. And if you have any doubt that you're going to make it to the league, you got to set yourself up as best as you possibly can. Now, I think he's setting himself up great at Oklahoma, but if you're telling me the difference is less than $500,000 here or $1 million plus elsewhere, we would all make the same decision at that age. Every single one of us. Nat, you're right. OU fans got to cool it. Let's fast forward to Sunday. He returns, supposedly a new NIL deal, going to make him a little happier. Matt, you gave us a little bit of your thoughts on what that looked like for you, but as you're chilling in the Cali sun, maybe by the beach, got a Mai Tai in hand, what were you thinking of David Stone on Sunday as he returns to Oklahoma?
Yeah, I probably, in my mind, was probably exactly the best feeling you could have, knowing the defense coming into the year and having that type of talent and upside from a player just staying home. Because like I was mentioning earlier, I think that the recent success, I was just looking at this list of 5-star players that we've had in the past
from the
10
mainline
to 15
podcast, which
from
I guess
the mainline podcast.
We're shouting
Shout out.
We're advertising other pods.
But just think of some of these guys. So before David Stone, it's Jackson Arnold, Portal, which we just talked about. PJ, that we're still unsure about. Peyton Boeing, which we've seen glimpses of, but I don't think he's lived up. Yeah, he hasn't lived to his full potential. Caleb Williams, Portal. Clayton Smith, Portal. Jazel Haydenwood, Portal. Spencer Rattler, Portal. Theo Weiss, Portal. Bray Walker, Portal. Buki, obviously didn't work out. That's just the last probably what, 5 to 10 years, maybe. And so the success has just not been great. And so the fact that another guy with this much talent, like you said, Mark, on the defensive line, choosing to come back to Oklahoma, I think really just solidifies not only this year what the defense can do, but just solidifying the future years because these are the types of guys that you can build around. A David Stone, Jaden Jackson combo. Well, you can find other guys either by recruiting and developing or getting some additional pieces in the portal, but you just don't find guys like David Stone all the time. So I'm glad he decided to come back. I'm sure Jim Nagy had a lot of thorough conversations and happy that he's still a Sooner at the end of the day.
Patrick, I'd say the last successful 5-star that Oklahoma pulled in was Joe Mixon, and that came with its own very specific set of issues. How do you feel knowing that David Stone's going to be back in the fold now?
I think it's great and really for the culture. It's clear that he's close and has really good relationships with the team and is a part of that defensive unit from like a friendship love standpoint, if that's too strong of a word, maybe outside of the practice field. And so from that perspective, it's really great for morale and culture. Kudos to Todd Bates and probably Brent too for like the great relationships they have built with David Stone and probably just do in that locker room on the defensive side of the ball. And I think all of that paid off and showed going into a very tricky situation where in Ohio State or Miami, we're giving $1 million+ offers for David Stone to come enter their team.
That's another good point that I don't think we've touched on is even though he entered the portal, it seems like David continued or kept up communication with everyone at Oklahoma. It almost seems like this was more clearly a negotiation tactic than we see with a lot of these guys who enter the portal. Nico had already burned every bridge by the time he hit the portal. David almost surprised them, it sounds like, with his entry and then used that to show them, hey, I'm for real about this. I don't want to leave, but I will leave if you're going to force my hand on this money issue. A lot of speculation out there about who's calling the shots, him getting pulled in different directions. I think we all just need to be realistic and think that's going to come. Every 5-star that Matt listed there, if they had the opportunity to go get the bag the way that David Stone does now, we might not have held on to those guys even as long as we did. You think about a Bray Walker, one season into his Oklahoma career, he's not a starter. Someone's going to throw him a bag based on that high school evaluation. I think that's the future. I don't think anyone's going to get a real handle on regulating this thing such that you're not going to have situations like that. Big time that Oklahoma is able to keep him in the fold. Like I said, he might be defensive tackle for this season, and I still think you've got to keep him in the fold. Any final thoughts on David Stone before we move on, guys? No? No?
One last thing I
Little
forgot
bit.
to mention. You kind of mentioned it, but I did want to touch on it. We were going to be okay, and I think that him transferring out, if he would have been less of an impact to the team than a Caden Green. So from that perspective, too, I feel like the coaching staff's done a very good job at providing depth on that side of the ball. Again, credit to Todd Bates and the defensive coaching staff. And I just wanted to mention that too.
Yeah, we had a little bit more leverage here than we ever would have had with Caden Green, right? We'll pay you a little bit less than Miami might, but you're going to want to stick around. Moving on. I almost think, guys, based on the outline, as it's handled right now, as it's set up right now, it might just be time to circle those wagons. Matt, are you prepared to take us around the wide world of Oklahoma sports after a weekend that was so fruitful for the Oklahoma Sooners? Please take it away.
Absolutely. I think we have to start with the most obvious, the biggest win of the weekend. OU Gymnastics winning their 7th national title over some
Ladies.
pretty Yes, ladies winning. What an incredible feat. Even though LSU didn't make it into the finals after losing the semis, still had to compete against some very good teams in Missouri, Utah, and I want to say UCLA, and ended up pulling it out. My girlfriend was boots on the ground. She was giving me updates every single time that she could.
Shout out. I saw those
Shout out.
posts and she didn't have a reason to be there except for you. That is
Mm,
amazing. That is so cool. Good
yep.
girlfriend.
And they led wire to wire the entire way, posting a 197.6125. Listen to this dominance right here. Third title in the last 4 years, and all seven of their titles have come in the last 11. That is now tied most with UCLA, or third most titles with UCLA. And last year, they totally blew it. They should have easily cakewalked. They were having one of the more historic regular seasons of gymnastics history. They get to the finals, they blow it on the last day, and that's something that a lot of players have talked about motivating them to get back to this place, to raise that sign that they were national championships. So now they have the monkey off their back. They came back full throttle. Jordan Bowers, who won NCAA all tournament, deserves this crown. And so does KJ Kindler, who has just led to this historic dominance for OU women's gymnastics as they continue just to be so consistent year in and year out, even with the turnover of the great athletes that they have. And that's something that OU has had to deal with this entire year, especially with the refereeing, especially with the scoring, feeling like they should have gotten better scores throughout. Now, again, just continue to fuel and motivate these girls. Patrick, Mark, what do you guys think about this recent dominance and obviously OU being national championships or national champions?
6 natties since 2016. If you want to throw second place in there, you've got 10 first or second place finishes since 2013. That is nearly OU softball levels of dominance, and no other team has anything close to that during that timeline. Guys, it's time to face it. We're a women's sports school.
Amen.
OU gymnastics and OU softball are truly leading the pack when it comes down to it. I was with friend of the pod Ryan Heil during the ladies gymnastics victory, and he straight up said KJ Kindler needs a statue. I'm not sure he's wrong. I think he's right. Let's
Absolutely.
once you tear down McCaslin and do something about that, build that statue. There's no reason why she shouldn't be there. Patrick, what do you think?
It's a great point. Patty Gasso is someone we rave about all the time, but she is just as valuable to Oklahoma sports. And she really shows what it is to be a great program within women's gymnastics. So great job by the whole team. Really exciting that they won.
And one more, Matt, you said it. 3 of the last 4, Jordan Bowers is a senior. Jordan Bowers pulls out 3 national championships during her time at Oklahoma. Build that statue too. Statues can't be too expensive. They don't have Heismans. We gotta honor these people somewhere, some other way. Build a Jordan Bowers statue. Build a KJ Kindler statue. This is real success in a way that other sports don't necessarily achieve. Go ahead, Matt.
It's a good point.
No, I totally agree. They're gonna have to do something. Obviously, they don't have jersey numbers, but something needs to be in the rafters. Something needs to be in a statue form for these players because it is just incredible what they've done
Hang
in
the
such a small
unitard.
time. Hang it. They might have to.
Hang
They're
it.
so pretty, you might
Hang
have
it.
to. Absolutely. Well, on the other end of things, men's gymnastics also competed in the national semi and finals. They actually came up a little bit short, getting into third place behind Michigan, who ended up winning, and Stanford, but they did compete in their 25th consecutive NCAA finals. That is pretty absurd as well, what they're also doing on the men's side. They finished top 3 in the last 23 of the last 24 national championships held. and that's going back to 2001. So again, they're just as dominant, maybe don't have those top finishes that women's gymnastics, and obviously men's gymnastics being a smaller overall national program, but still their dominance and what Mark Williamson, the head coach, has been doing since he got there is still something that needs to be heard, learned, and remembered for as long as we can, because these types of coaches just don't come around that often. So good luck on, or good season for them overall as they continue to have their dominance as well. Mark, any thoughts on it?
Here's my the thing that comes to mind immediately is take football out of the equation. Take it just completely out of the equation. It's not in the math, whatever. Hasn't Joe Castiglione made basically perfect hires all along the way? You can quibble with basketball. You can quibble with baseball before right now. OU golf is great.
Yep, Ryan Hibble. Yep.
Obviously men's gymnastics, obviously women's gymnastics, obviously Patty Gasso. Baseball's on a run right now. They're top 25 in the nation. For anyone who is saying that Joe C is stuck behind in the times, I think that we need to recognize the variance that happens when you've been through what we've been through in football and still look at the success that he's had as an athletic director overseeing this entire thing. Patrick.
Oh, I would completely agree. I think even if you throw football in there, obviously last 4 years aside, but not really because like there is a great culture brewing. He's made the right hires. The only sports I can really think of that continuously might be under the average, below
Less
average.
than totally successful.
It's
Yeah.
women's soccer and women's
Yep.
volleyball. Those are the two that just like we haven't really gotten the right. Some things happened there. I know
Yeah, I would say tennis probably fall in that category as well. But they've actually been pretty good the last few years, I think, but maybe not like
yeah,
historically speaking.
but still, three programs aren't great. That's pretty dang good.
Yep.
And Mark Williams, the Olympics gymnastics coach a year ago.
Yep.
Like we've got the guy that the USA wants to coach their team.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good hiring. Matt, please.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'll move on to some of the other sports. I'll start with OU softball, who is 39-5, 13-5 in conference play. Bring out the brooms. They just swept Mississippi State over this past weekend, 4-0, 6-5, 9-6 in the last two games, which was a doubleheader on, I believe, Sunday or Monday, one of the 2 days. They were actually down in both of those games. They broke the tie in the second game with 2 runs in the fifth. Never looked back. In the third game, Mississippi State got up 5-2 in 2 innings before OU tied it up and then ended up winning that 9-6. So really good sweep for them, but they have a huge 3-game series against number 2 Texas this weekend at Love's Field. So if you're in Norman, top 5 matchup, top 2 matchup in the entire nation, we have to have people out there to support these girls because this is obviously going to be the toughest and tallest task that OU women's softball has faced all year. I think this will really give us a good barometer of where these girls are at so far, maybe about midway through the season, a little bit more than that at this point. So good luck to OU women's softball as they do that. Going to the other diamond, OU men's baseball finally maybe find a little bit of traction. 29-10, 10-8 in conference play. Also bring out the brooms because they swept Missouri and they run ruled them in every single game. Listen to these scores and let me know if you think this is baseball or something else. 17-4, 17-7, and 12-1. That is a pure 3-game SEC domination, but this is what they needed because OU's offense was really slumping before last week's game against OSU and this past 3-game series against Missouri. So hopefully this is kind of a jumping off starting point because the offense has really been, I think, a little bit inconsistent throughout the year, but they're going to get a tall task right away. They're going to play ORU tonight, and then they'll have a 3-game series against number 10 Georgia in Athens. So hopefully they can continue with this momentum moving forward. Really, in other big news as well, OU's men's basketball picking up another transfer. I'm not going to even attempt at the first name, but if someone wants to give an attempt and go for it,
Xavier. We're gonna
that's what
say
that's
Xavier.
what I would say.
It's XZ. I don't know why the Z is there, but look, if you're a parent, you can do anything.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Xavier Brown coming over from St. John's. So OU recently hired
St.
St.
Joseph's, right?
John's or St. Joseph,
No,
sorry.
St. Joe's, yeah.
St. Joe's, yes. They hired Porter Moser hired St. Joe's assistant coach Justin Scott, who is Brown's stepdad, to the coaching staff. So there was always a rumor that Xavier Brown would follow. He started 30 of 32 appearances as a sophomore, averaged 17, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and about 36 minutes per game. He also shot 42% from the field, 35% from the arc, and 90% from the free throw line. This is exactly the third and pretty much final piece I think OU needed. It was really more of a true point guard, a ball handler, a guy that can create his own shots, get his other teammates involved, but really run the point guard like we've seen in recent years with Fears, with Trey Young, that are really good at what they do. And I think this really solidifies, that third and final piece along with Tay and Nigel Pack. Guys, what do you guys think about what Porter is doing and specifically about Xavier Brown coming in?
Pat, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Porter Moser is setting himself up for success. And this seems like the most positive transfer portal he's had probably yet in his tenure at Oklahoma. So I think we question a lot, is he getting the support he needs to set himself up for success? And we talk a lot about how like the answer there is no a lot of the time. But it seems like he's getting the resources this year. And if it's not better than a first round out, it's time to reconsider his tenure at Oklahoma. But I'm very optimistic given that he's brought in three really good guys, a good assistant coach. I think I think he's set up for success next year.
I was going to say something very similar. You constantly doubt the investment that OU is willing to make in basketball, and with good reason, right? What's
Yeah.
going on with Lloyd Noble? What's going on with this basketball district that is truly never going to be built? All right, we can't control those things. There's a lot in the city of Norman's hands, and the incoming new mayor, maybe he's not as into spending the money from the taxpayers the way that another mayor might. This is how you assign your resources. This is how you invest your resources. Go get players. Have success on the floor, and that's going to lead to success off the court as well. I think that bringing in another guy who you know can play ball, put Dayton Forsyth off the bench, coming in 6 man, able to play. We've seen it. We know he can get up shots. We know he can handle the ball. He can play alongside either Nigel Pack or Xavier Brown. And yet you've got three new starters, most likely, that have played really good ball. From Porter Moser's statement, they have combined for 291 games played and 230 starts against high-level competition. They are battle-tested and will be great leaders from the moment they step foot on campus. They are cerebral, coachable players who bring definite scoring punch with over 3,500 career points among them. Look, I didn't do the math. That's got to be more points than our entire roster has combined before you bring in these three guys. I think all three of them are huge additions, and it does seem like you've set yourself up for success next season. Let's see if we can get past the first round. It's an absolute miss at this point if you don't at least make the tournament. That's a difference from where Porter Moser has had this program in the past. Our standards need to be higher going into next season than they have been for the entire Porter Moser tenure. Matt.
Well, it's crazy. For 4 straight years, they start off so well. They always win for 4 straight years the opening tournament, whether it's in the Bahamas or wherever they're playing at. They beat some really good non-conference teams, and then all of a sudden, when SEC play or conference play starts, they just fall off a cliff. That just can't happen. And even with a SEC gauntlet, you have to do better than where you're at like 6-12 or whatever they ended up, still making the tournament. But when you have a Davis who's 6'9", 215, Nigel Pack 6 foot, and now Brown's 6'2", 175, with their experience and like you just mentioned, Mark, you can't have a first round exit. You have to be able to go far and deep into these tournaments, especially with the turnover that you have in these rosters each and every year. This is, I think, very similar to BVs, where this is such a pivotal year. You really have to put all your chips in and go for it. What else do you have to lose other than knowing that your job is on the line? So great points by everyone there. So OU's men's basketball continuing to add to their depth and to their roster. Talk about OU men's golf. They're going to be competing in the SEC Championship in Sea Island Golf Club in St. Simons Island, Georgia. That will happen actually this starting tomorrow when you're listening to the pod throughout the weekend. So good luck to them before they go into NCAA regionals. Heading over to women's tennis, who competed in the SEC championship, they beat number 11 LSU 4-1 before losing into the semifinals to number 2 Georgia 0-4. They are now awaiting their fate to see if they're going to be into the NCAA regionals and tournament, which will be announced, I believe, over the next week. So good luck. Hopefully, they can get in and make a final postseason run. Men's tennis also in the SEC championship beat LSU 4-1, Georgia 4-3 in the second round before falling into the quarterfinals to Mississippi State. I believe they already have a bid, but they could also be waiting to hear if they are going to make it or not, just depending on more seeding for the men's, figuring out if women will even make it at this point. But good luck to those continued teams in postseason play. That is circle the wagons.
My wagons feel circled. Patrick, any final thoughts on the tennis results here? No? No.
Nope.
No. All right. Moving on. Guys, it's draft week. Now, I'm a big fan of the NFL draft. I plan on watching or following every step of the way in the first round, second round, third round, everything that happens on Saturday, 4 through 7. But very specifically, we've got some OU guys that we're going to be looking out for as well.
In round 7.
Maybe. I think so. So we can start with the guys who went to the combine, right? The NFL has a pretty good grasp on who's going to get drafted and when they're going to get drafted. And so they invite Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, Ethan Downs all to the combine in March, I think is when the combine is. Maybe it was in February. Everyone tests well enough. Ethan Downs actually puts on an absolute show on the bench press, leading bench presses among defensive ends. I guess I want to get your thoughts on Patrick thinks everyone's going to go in the 7th round. We would have 5 of 32 or 3 of 32 from at least those guys. That's pretty special. Is there anything you're specifically looking for from the draft process for these guys? I'll tell you my thoughts. I would love to see Danny and Billy go on day 2. That's going to be either round 2 or 3. It does seem like they're more likely to be like 3, 4, maybe 5. And then Ethan Downs coming on day 3, which is that 4 through 7 range. Any surprises with that for you guys? I'm a little surprised by the way the draft process has treated Danny Stutzman. I see plenty of stuff out there that is saying, hey, you'll love him coming downhill, attacking the run. You don't really want him dropping in coverage very much. I feel like Danny's been our best coverage linebacker for 3 years now. So that's a bit of a disconnect from my Oklahoma football experience, but what do you guys think headed into this weekend of the draft, Matt?
Yeah, it's kind of an odd thing because before we had Danny Stutzman, I think almost projected going into maybe the late first round. And it just seems like ever
Early
since the
on.
Senior Bowl where he didn't participate, and I don't know if we ever found out if it's due to injury or if he just didn't want
He
to for
accepted
whatever
an
reason.
invite and then wasn't there.
Right. So I'm not sure. I don't think that necessarily hurt his draft stock, but ever since that point, it seems like really Billy has kind of propelled himself up and Danny maybe a couple steps back. So it'll be really interesting how they evaluate both of these guys, knowing that, they're really going to be the guys that are going to go into these earlier rounds versus maybe an Ethan Downs or some of these other guys that have declared for the NFL draft. So I'll be really interested who ends up taking a shot on Danny. Because again, I think the biggest things from what I've seen is really his coverage and when offensive linemen get their hands on him. But I think with every NFL college linebacker, there's a lot of learning curves that you have to learn in an NFL defense. So I have no, issues. I think Danny will be able to make it whatever system he's in, but it has surprised me kind of how much he's dropped off from the Senior Bowl and Billy has, maybe propelled himself a little higher. But I agree, it's probably going to be within kind of that 4 to 7 range versus maybe the first two rounds, which is a little surprising to me.
On the flip side, it's really exciting for Billy Bowman. You see a lot of draft pundits talk about his versatility. Yeah, he's a safety, but in the NFL, he might also be a nickel corner. He might be someone who can step back into that center field range as well as step up and take a guy on in the slot. That's someone who the NFL is going to value super duper highly. Patrick, what are your thoughts on those three guys?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Nickels are the hot topic right now, and Billy B can play there if he feels like it. Yeah, it's kind of weird because I feel like Danny and Billy kind of flip-flopped, right? We were expecting a higher draft pick for Danny, and it might be Billy now. I think Danny's going to succeed wherever he goes. If anything, this just puts a chip on his shoulder wherever he goes. So I'm hoping he doesn't fall into like 5 or 6, but if he does, I just hope he lands at the right place. And especially when you do fall in this mid-range, you're more likely to hit up a good team. So hopefully that's the case for all of these guys. Ethan, I don't have too much, right? He's just like the most consistent high average player who gets you some pressure, but not enough pressure. But the fundamentals are there, the body's there, the work ethic's there, the personality's there. It'd be a great teammate and a great asset to any NFL team, especially if they can progress him.
And all three of those guys seem destined to be stars on special teams at this stage.
Totally.
You could see Danny Stutzman or Billy Bowman, or sorry, Danny Stutzman or Ethan Downs be the personal protector on a punt team for every single team in the league. You could see them be on every single unit as far as special teams go. Billy, just with his size, he's going to be on kickoff. He's going to be on punt. He might be on punt return. He's not really going to be on that field goal block team. He's not really going to be hanging out on the field goal team the way you could possibly see Ethan Downs fill in. Where, not where, are there any of the other guys coming off the roster? I sent you guys the pro day list that you are excited to see the possibility of their getting drafted. I'll go first real fast. Trace Ford measured in at 6 foot, 249 pounds at his pro day and ran a faster 40 than Ollie Gordon did, the Oklahoma State running back. There's a lot of athleticism with Trace Ford, and I think that you could definitely see him carve out a similar role, especially among special teams where you know, your 6 foot 249 guys end up, right? That he's going to be on every special team if he gets picked up by a team. And past that, DJ Terry, 6 feet tall, 317 pounds. He was a stuffer for the Oklahoma Sooners the last couple years. 2 years. He spent 2 years
2 years.
in
2 years.
Oklahoma jersey. Patrick knows DJ Terry's a Tennessee guy. Is there anyone past Trace or maybe DJ Terry that you're excited to see maybe get taken in that 4 to 7 range on Saturday?
Speaking of the nickel position, you do have Woody Washington on the board as well, right?
Yep.
5th year senior, a lot of experience, good experience. He's got some good tape. Wasn't was good at coverage, wasn't the best at times, like there's some inconsistency there, but I would pick him up late potentially if the need is there. He's definitely a guy on the board that I would keep an eye on.
Certainly a camp body. right? There's no
Yeah.
reason why Woody won't be signed with a team while the rosters are large and you can bring in those undrafted guys. Matt?
Yeah, I'll go the other side. I was going to say another cornerback. I was going to say Des Malone. Obviously coming off his pretty good year from San Diego State before transferring. I think he struggled at times, but probably was one of the better cover corners that we had on the team before obviously the emergence of some of these other young guys. But I think Des Malone possibly has a chance just with his length and size. But again, I think he would be a later day kind of pickup, maybe not in that 4 to 7, maybe towards the 7 into the draft, but probably not a bad pickup. I think he's kind of in the same suit as Woody Washington, probably just a little bit more athletic.
Yeah, I tend to agree. There's a handful of other guys, you could see a Spencer Brown or a Michael Tarquin just get brought in after the draft, maybe as free agents. Caden Woolard is one that I think has a real chance of signing with someone or even getting drafted late and sticking on a roster. You look at a guy like Jonah Laulu, who was signed or maybe drafted to the Colts in the last couple of years, and see sort of the future for Caden Woolard as far as just maybe you get on a roster and you're able to stick. That's amazing for us. That's big time for the Oklahoma Sooners just to get anyone on rosters. Any final thoughts on the draft before we move on?
Are you guys going to B-Dubs? How are you guys going to watch it?
Dude, I'm gonna be traveling. I'll
Hmm.
be I'll be home Thursday. I'll be in Galveston Friday, and my time will not be my own then. And then Saturday, same thing. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. Matt, any plans for the draft?
I think B-Dubs did do an all-you-can-eat wings and fries combo, so I don't know if they're still doing that or is it limited time offer, but
I did see the Foodie Boys were on that. Yeah, did
That's
that.
all
I mean, if that's
Monday
the
through
case,
Thursday
if that's the
is
case,
the all you can eat deal. See you there the Thursday.
could be.
Could be. Could be. All right, guys. We don't normally go too deep on the NBA, but I know that Matt
I
is
sure want to.
wearing that t-shirt for a reason. Matt, the floor is yours. Tell us all about your Oklahoma City Thunder and what you see from them going forward.
Yeah, I see a squad that is mature beyond their years, that
Wow.
puts aside any of the things that media says about them being too young, too
Oh wow.
inexperienced. And this is
Yeah.
what we're going to find out. Can this team, who hopefully and I think will get past the Memphis Grizzlies, they're in game two. We'll know the score beyond it. But they came out in game one and asserted their dominance. They won by 51 points, which is one of the single largest, I think, if not the largest game one victory in NBA playoff history. When a lot of people thinking this Thunder team can't make it. Now, are they playing the best and
Can
most
we
competitive team in the
can
West?
I
Not yet. Go ahead.
can I interrupt real fast? I've seen this from Thunder fans, and as a
Yep.
non-Thunder fan but an Oklahoma fan, I'm exposed to this all the time. The
Yep.
Thunder are fantastic. The rightful one seed, the rightful favorites, all
Yep.
of that stuff. Who is saying the Thunder can't win the whole thing? Is there a name that can be pointed to that isn't just a random Twitter user that's talking down the Thunder? Because every NBA voice I follow is like, yeah, they're the best team in the West, and
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't think
anything
it's
else
Let
would be
me
a surprise.
let me give the real answer before
Let's do it.
Matt gives the right answer.
Okay.
It's the Oklahoma Thunder against the world, dude. No one believes in us, okay? Like, that's the truth. We're so young, no one thinks we can win this NBA final. So, we're going to try to prove them wrong. No one thinks
Oh
we
my
can win.
God.
So,
No
it's the
one
Thunder
does
against the
grievance
world.
like Thunder fans. No one does grievance. Go ahead,
So,
Matt.
Matt,
Yeah, I think it's the second year in a row. I think it's more of NBA players not giving the respect the Thunder have. If we thought about last year, where no one expected the Thunder to be the number one seed as young as they were, and then obviously losing in the second round to the eventual Mavs who got to the NBA Finals, it's really the same story as last year. Is this team's too young, doesn't have a lot of playoff experience, and you really hear it from some NBA insiders, but you also hear from NBA players who will not be named. They remain anonymous, but they don't give the
Almost.
respect. They always say that they don't fear the Oklahoma City Thunder and they would rather be on that side of the bracket versus playing the Nuggets or playing Golden State or whoever it is. And it's the same
Clippers.
story from last year. So they don't believe that the Thunder have it now. Fast forward to now, where Oklahoma City has picked up Hartenstein to fill in that center position because Chet,
Huge.
they needed some girth, right? And they also got some really good players back from Wiggins and Isaiah Joe that they signed to long-term deals. But they also got Alex Caruso, and there's a reason why they are statistically had the best regular season in the NBA since the NBA started. And they're going to prove that into
Not by
this
wins,
West.
but
By wins, by point differential, by defensive statistics, steals, blocks, all of those things. This team is for real. They are much different than last year. Excited to continue to see them play, and that blowout won't happen again. The Grizzlies are too good of a team for that. But the Thunder are for real, and I'd be scared if I was anybody in the West.
I would agree with those last two statements easily. I think that they should be favored in the West, and I think that any matchup coming up, they should be favored in those. Patrick, were you able to watch the Rockets lose to the Golden State Warriors the other night? Did you watch any of that?
Wasn't able to watch, was keeping track of the score, saw we were up, then we were down. And
Yep.
That's about
young team.
Didn't come back up. Didn't come back up,
Didn't
baby.
come back up. Young team, tough to play against a guy like Steph Curry at the age of 37 when he's still hitting threes out the wazoo. Hopefully, we can turn it around, though. What are your thoughts, Mark? Do we have a chance?
I watched the game. I think there's a real chance. You gotta tell Jalen Green to settle the hell down.
Yeah.
Jalen Green plays every offensive possession like he is the reason why the game is gonna turn around. And then he drives to the basket, gets to the basket, and just doesn't finish. And just doesn't finish. Amin Thompson looked out of sorts in his first game in the playoffs. I'll say this, you've got to keep riding Alperen Şengün. That is maybe the best number 18 pick that we've seen come out of the draft, and he is easily the leader on the offensive side of the ball for the Houston Rockets. You saw a lot of success with the double big lineup. Steven Adams, former Thunder guy. There you go, Matt.
Yep.
Coming in and really just owning the game from the moment he came into it. You're going to have to lean into that larger lineup. You know, you've got Şengün, you've got Adams, you've got Jabari Smith, you've got Tari Eason, you've got these bigger bodies that you can throw at the Golden State Warriors. Got to see if Ime Udoka, the best coach in basketball, is willing to go all the way that direction. You also need to see him play a guard like Aaron Holiday, someone who can play the more defense and isn't going to try to make his stamp on the game offensively. Obviously, we're a game into the series down 0-1, and I think it looks better than odds makers might make it seem, but it doesn't look dynamite. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, these guys have playoff pelts on the wall, and they know what they're doing when it comes down to it. You're just going to have to overwhelm those guys, and they certainly did not do that in game one. Any final thoughts on the NBA? Any other NBA outcomes you wanna discuss? Because personally, I'm pretty happy with James Harden and his chances on the Clippers.
That's probably the best series, I would think. Them and Rockets Golden State, I think, are going to be a fun one. I think they'll probably go to 7. I think the Rockets can push Golden State, but the Rockets, I think, are in the same narrative that the Thunder are. Very young team, no playoff experience. Some of those guys had their first playoff game ever. And I think that showed a little bit in that first game, but I think they have the talent to push it. It's just they don't have, I think Jalen Green can get there, but he looked very flustered to your point, Mark. But who's Houston going to rely on when they need those clutch baskets? Who's going to show up? Is that going to be Şengün or Jalen Green? But I think they have the talent to do so. Celtics looks good like they always do. I think it's just going to be, again, them and the Cavs in the final, but hopefully Jason Tatum's okay because you never want to see a seriously injured player. It looked like maybe something with his wrist, but definitely want to keep an eye on that. And obviously Jaylen Brown, who's been dealing with a knee injury. So Cavs, I think, have a good chance. I think Cavs are being slept on as well, but that would be a pretty good series if they can get there.
Jason Tatum doubtful for game 2 with a wrist injury, as you said. And I got nothing else on basketball. Pat, you don't like basketball all that much. Nope. We'll move on. Bringing up the rear of our show, Matt Gann style, PGP MVPz. Who do we got this week? Patrick, go ahead.
I've got David Stone. I think ultimately he made the best decision for his career long term. I thought it was a mature decision. The way he played it was smart overall, it seems. And I'm really happy that we've got our guy back because he is one of our guys.
I love that. Yeah. Matt, MVP?
I'm not sure how to define this. I guess depending on your viewpoint and your objectivity, you could say MVP or LVP. I'll let the fans and comment down below, but the NBA is finding Minnesota's
all
Anthony
the ones
Edwards
still listening.
50 grand for saying my bleep is bigger than yours. Comments to the Lakers crowd Saturday night after completely demolishing the Lakers, which is another fun series. But that comment, I've seen the video a couple of times. Hilarious to me. So MVP in my eyes, but if you're on the other side of things, maybe LVP.
Who's your MVP? Sorry.
Anthony Edwards for saying my bleep is bigger than yours to the Lakers crowd and getting fined 50 grand, which is, yeah, I'm sure will be covered by the Wolves anyways. So
between Anthony Edwards with that commentary and Ja Morant with the grenade celebration, I think
gosh, man.
It's the NBA is in great hands. It is so funny. It is so funny what these guys are up to.
The memes are endless.
Endless. I'm going to go MVP, the offensive coaching staff right now for Oklahoma. You just saw Toa Katoa, offensive lineman, come down. I don't know where. I think he's from Utah. Come to Oklahoma on a visit. He's down to his final three between Oklahoma, SMU, and Texas A&M. I can't speak to all the Texas A&M fans, but I think that Oklahoma is clearly the program there on the upward trajectory if you trust in the Ben Arbuckle experience. And they're putting the work in, man. They are putting the work in to get those guys in-house. There's a quarterback question with Jaden O'Neal or Bo Bentley, but I trust that they're going to come to an answer. And those guys never stop grinding. They really never stop grinding. They never stop trying to get talent in the door. It comes down to usage. And I'm hopeful that the usage will be correct this season and that these guys will get another chance at it next year too. My MVP is going to be the offensive coaching staff. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? Go ahead, Pat.
Arbuckle and his brisket. Just
a tweet.
Yeah,
that should have been MVP.
Yeah. So, well, he did say offensive coaching staff, so I just wanted to add to that because what an incredible tweet to just for him to go out of his way and just just be like, oh, I made brisket. This is a good idea. Fuck Lincoln Riley. Screw Lincoln Riley is what I meant. But hey,
we won't edit it out.
PG-13, baby.
No one's still here.
Just funny though. Funny.
Yeah, I agree.
So good. A coach who is as online as we are because he is younger than we all are. It is amazing. He just lives on Twitter. You can tell. Yeah. You can tell. And that's going to do us for episode 172 of the Program Guyz podcast. As always, please go follow us on our YouTube page at Program Guyz Podcast, on Twitter at Program Guyz with a Z, all of your podcast apps, all of your social media. We're going to be there. You know how to spell it. If you're still here with us, you know how to spell it. Look up. It's in the title. Yeah, whatever Matt just said. I got nothing else for us, guys. Patrick, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1. There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.